I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Now, today we're reading from the book of Isaiah, chapter 33. Let's focus on verses 14 through 16. The sinners in Zion are afraid. Trembling seizes the ungodly. Who among us can dwell with a consuming fire? Who among us can dwell with everlasting flames? The one who lives righteously and speaks rightly, who refuses gain from extortion, whose hand never takes a bribe, who stops his ears from listening to murderous plots and shuts his eyes to avoid endorsing evil. He will dwell on the heights. His refuge will be the rocky fortress, his food provided, his water assured. Isaiah 33 is an emergency psalm of sorts. It seems to have three clear divisions. It is a prayer for the promised destruction of Assyria, God's challenging answer to the future, and the Messianic kingdom. The reason that I chose today's passage is because it deals directly with a very sensitive issue as pertains to Jewish evangelism, sharing the gospel with the Jewish community. Now, Isaiah answers the volatile question, what happens to those Jewish people who reject the Messiah? It also delineates between those within Judaism whom Isaiah describes as sinners and those within Judaism who are considered righteous. Isaiah reveals their respective consequences, being either blessing or everlasting flames. These aren't the words of some New Testament guy. This is what Isaiah had been saying. And you see, there are some in the church at large who believe we should not evangelize the Jewish community because, in the words of the Apostle Paul, all Israel will be saved. But that argument fails to consider the proper context of Paul's statement. Let's go there now. Romans 11, verses 27 through 27. Well, let's begin in verse 27. So that you will not be conceited, brothers, I do not want you to be unaware of this mystery. A partial hardening has come to Israel until the full number of the Gentiles has come in. And in this way, all Israel will be saved. As it is written, the liberator will come from Zion. He will turn away godlessness from Jacob. And this will be my covenant with them when I take away their sins. See, Paul had already made a distinction that Israel, in the messianic saving sense, is defined not by people of Hebrew descent, but rather Jewish people who believe in the Messiah, Jesus, by faith. Salvation is a choice and not bestowed simply because one comes from a Hebrew lineage. Both Gentiles and Jews must choose to trust the Messiah in order to be saved. But Paul does not infer that all people who are Jewish will enter into that saving relationship. That was Isaiah's insider message to an all-Jewish audience, and Paul's just repeating the same concepts. Paul is simply reinforcing Isaiah's words. Consider this from Romans 9, verse 6. But it is not as though the word of God has failed, for not all who are descended from Israel are Israel. Neither are they all children, because they're Abraham's descendants. You see, salvation for both Jew and Gentile is by God's grace through faith in the Messiah, Jesus alone, by His grace alone, through faith in Jesus alone. Ephesians 2, 8 and 9. Paul speaking to the church in Ephesus, for by grace you have been saved through faith. And that is not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast. So since today's chapter is also predicting the days of the Messiah, Jesus, it is important to point out that many Jewish people believed in and followed Jesus during His earthly ministry. At one point, He fed 5,000 followers and 4,000 at another time. Shortly after Jesus' resurrection, 3,000 Jewish men were saved and baptized in Acts chapter 2. So while many Jewish people believed in Jesus, the majority of Jews rejected Him, namely Judas and Caiaphas, of course, the high priest, most of the Sanhedrin. But neither Isaiah nor any other Bible writer would assume the same eternities would await both groups, just simply because they come from Hebrew backgrounds. And that reality makes our evangelistic efforts even more urgent. To not only know Jesus ourselves, but to share him with everyone whom we meet, both Jew and Gentile. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Now, Groundworks Ministries operates entirely through financial donations from faithful people like you. And yes, we do need your monthly support. Donating is secure and it's easy at our website, groundworksministries.com. Another way to help is just tell people about Groundworks Ministries. You can share these podcasts with your friends and family and on your social media. And of course, you can always direct folks to our website, groundworksministries.com.